felt like my class, and not to put anyone else's class down, I felt like we were like really rigidly trained, especially on the phones and on how to seat properly. And then as time went on, I felt like that eroded a little bit.
Hold on, I want to get into this specifically. Yeah, let me read it. All right, cool. Hello, welcome to another episode of To Be Frank. We back in Austin. My name is Frank Castillo. Today's guest is one of my favorite people, fellow door guy, fellow paid regular, fellow comic who's gone down the path of the Comedy Store. Give it up for Benji Aflalo.
Give it up for me.
All right, we'll get right into it. We were talking about it a little bit before, but we were talking about what it's like to. You gave me a compliment as a door guy when you had already became a paid regular, and as a former door guy, it just like felt good to be told that you were doing a good job as a door guy, because the job is so. It's a job you can either take seriously or you cannot take seriously, and it affects how you work with people. Because it's like, it's still seating, it's still working at a club. So if people are like slacking off, you're like, fuck, this sucks. Because now I have to do a good job.
It's also a job you don't have to take seriously, but just do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, you can be stoned or drunk and seat people properly, or
I was high the whole time.
yeah, you can be that, but also just like arrange the chairs properly, seat people properly. And it's important to be a good door guy because you're young and starting out. You want to make a good impression on all the cooler, older comedians and all the people. And yeah, you want to be responsible and respectful.
And you also worked phones.
I worked phones so much, dude. By the time I got past, I think I was picking up phones like 4 days a week. And sometimes like at least twice a week, I was at the Comedy Store 10 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Yeah, so you want to explain what working phones is to anyone who may not know what that is.
Okay, so they don't have phones guys anymore, but back in the day when I started there in around 2008, there was still phones guys, and we picked up the phone because people would call asking about comedy shows, where to park, and you would pick up the phone and sell them tickets. We would even write down ticket sales and credit card numbers, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like this training thing of how to sell shows, how to talk to people. It was sort of, I thought, which is why I think it's a bummer it doesn't really exist anymore. I thought it was a good way to train young comedians how to talk to people. Because when you're 22 and you're a stoner and you've got these big dreams, sometimes basic social skills like picking up the phone, explaining things, and getting that rhythm of things, I think helps in comedy. And I think that's why that was partially in place. And I think it's a bummer that it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when the way it was explained to me, and the way I kind of picked up on it was, as a door guy, they put you out front because they want you to talk to people. They want you to know what it's like to have a conversation with someone, to like, check an ID, to tell them where the bathroom is. But it's like, if the goal at the store is to, because it's written on that fucking wall in the front of the OR, it's like to not be funny in 3 minutes, it's to be yourself in 3 minutes. Yourself is talking to people and interacting with every day, right? That's the whole idea of like art and stand up in the form of it. So I think those jobs are so important, and that's kind of like why being a door guy, especially some people get the job and they're like, well, what's next? Like, what is this? It's like, well, it's so funny. It's like religion. It's like, well, if you read the scripture, you know what I mean? Like, if you follow the path, if you do what you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to gain. And you see some people, they do it and they go on, and other people are just like still the hands in the air, like, I don't get it. It's like, well, you don't believe, you know?
Yeah, if there's a door guy at a comedy club that even just has like a bad attitude about it or is grumpy all the time, obviously we have our moments. I can be a grumpy guy too.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, you're at a comedy club. You're working in the thing you want to be doing. Like, this is pretty good. You're at least around people that you should respect, unless you're just a complete misfit and hate everybody. So,
which we've seen
and can also be funny, but yeah, that just wasn't my approach. But also I loved being a phones guy because I had been working for my parents, and there was always this like monkey on my back where it's like I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to like be in comedy and feel like I'm doing something. So when all of a sudden I had, even though it was part-time work at first, a day job in comedy, I was like, I fucking made it. I don't have to work for mom and dad anymore. I have a job. I'm making $8 an hour, but I still have a job.
Yeah.
And it's where I want to be. And it was also fun because like
it doesn't feel like a job.
It doesn't feel like a job. But I think when I was young, I don't know if other young people have this experience, you just want to be like part of something and like have an identity and a thing.
Oh, yeah.
So the moment I had a job at the Comedy Store, I was like, this is so cool. Like I got my first girlfriend at a weed store, hitting on her, inviting her to a comedy show. Or everyone I meet, I go, if you ever want to a comedy show, I got you.
Yeah.
Back then it was a little looser. I don't know what it's like now. So that was just like really good for my confidence and just like feeling like I had a place in the world, which is I think important in comedy because you feel lost. And I also think that's why store people get a little bratty.
No, absolutely.
Because we're not as on our own as a lot of other comedians in New York are so on their own, whereas like we have like a built-in little community watching you grow, encouraging you. You know, we had Jeff Scott on piano. We had a talent coordinator in the cover booth watching you, giving you notes, to like on your journey with you. And so I think it was nice to have that. I don't think I felt as alone as a lot of comedians did.
No, absolutely.
Even if I didn't realize it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I think, you know, I didn't, everyone's got their story and stuff. Growing up, like, I feel like the longest part of my life was always feeling like I needed a place, right? I never felt like I had my own place. Even growing up, I didn't really have my own, like I didn't have my own room until I was like 16. Like it was a lot of like finding yourself, like feeling like you were just kind of a fixture, like a piece of furniture that's constantly moved, right? You didn't really have, I felt like a man with no home, right? Growing up. The store, the first time you go and you get there, like it's like calling to you, right? It's like it was described to me as like it's an island of misfit toys. That's what it felt like. It felt like there was so many other misfits, so many other people with defects, so many other not perfect people that it was like, this feels like home, right? And anytime I'd bring my dad or any family members, they'd like, oh, I get this. I get what this is. Because there was certainly a time in my life where from like 23 to almost got 34, the store and everyone there and involved, it was like, that was my family. I saw them more than my family. They've been through parts of my life, through career, like huge life things, more than most of my family that I grew up with. Like that's how long I've been there, and that's how long like just that scene was. And like, you're right, that community, right? So it does feel like it definitely is changing. And like, I think the guys that work there now, the door guys, they don't have that as much, and it's kind of lost on them, which sucks so much. Because I think a lot of that is dictated by the comics around it and the culture and the people that come from it who like have gone through that system. You know, we've lost so many like important people. Jeff Scott, Jen's gone, Richie's gone. Even though, you know, I get the reasons, all that jazz, but it's like that's still such a big part of the culture. Because now that everyone that's there, even though they may care about it and they love it, it's still not like the lineage of the amount of people that have been there from previously.
Yeah, I guess it's just part of a rebirth that always is probably happening there. But yeah, when I got there, there was sort of this thing with the Jeff Scotts and the Jeff Scott was the piano player. There was this thing, and I don't know if it's still there anymore.
No, yeah, and it's not that it's
maybe it is. I just don't know.
It's not that it's not there. It's that it's just different.
It's different.
It's like you know, when you lose a family member, you know, it's like. Not that it's never going to be the same. It's just that it's different. And the new iteration may be great, and it is fun. You know what I mean? I'm there, and it's like I see a lot of the people there, and these are all my homies, and it's great. But it definitely is like, you know, when I came up as a door guy, I came up during the golden era. You know, like that was insane, especially to be a door guy in that era. It was crazy.
Also, comedy's different, so why would we expect it to be exact?
Yeah.
So, you know, things have to change.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I always thought like your class was a little spoiled because of that.
Oh, absolutely we were spoiled.
Because when we were door guys, we'd go up in front of like 6 people on a random night. Nobody was there. Nobody cared. The club was empty. And then all you door guys started getting like those opening spots on all the shows, and every show sold out, and all this stuff. And you guys had a thing where I would look at you guys and I'd be like, these motherfuckers act like they already made it. They're still door guys. But some of you did, so it's okay. But I remember thinking that. But again, it's like different times, different journeys, and that's just it.
Dude, it's so funny too, because now that I'm a little older, I do have people be like, dude, you had such an attitude when you were a door guy. And I was like, really? I don't remember. Like, I definitely thought I was like, I don't know if I was hot shit, but I was definitely like, yeah, I've been grinding, I've been working hard. I'm like not going to pretend like I don't do that. You know
and it was more awesome. It's like if I was a door guy when the Comedy Store was sold out and had all those heavy hitters, and I'm like, yeah, you did kind of make it.
Yeah, it was fucking nuts. And also, like, I remember even And it's so funny you say that because now as a paid regular and older, I look at all the younger door guys and I hear their complaining. I'm like, you fucking guys have it so easy now.
Yeah, they
You're
probably
so
have
spoiled.
dental and shit. Who knows what they have?
They're driving fucking Teslas like, man, when am I going to get past? And I'm like, you drive a nicer car than most of the paid regulars. This is crazy.
When I was an employee, everyone that I worked with was so poor. They were so poor. I won't say names, but I'm sure you can guess. Just the poorest motherfuckers you ever met, and no one had any money. Nobody could pay rent. Nobody had a car. Just extremely poor people. And then again, when your class came through, they were like, gave you guys raises. You made more money. And
dude, we were slinging booths like crazy.
oh, yeah. And then there was the booth selling. The only time you could sell booths at the Comedy Store, I think it was once a week when I was.
Really?
I think it was just the Saturday main room show.
Dog, we ran that
booths.
shit.
And then no names, some comics, would get passed from being an employee, and then they would hold on to that shift so they could just sell booths on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then you look at that motherfucker like, you got passed, get the fuck out of here. I'm next on the list to sell booths.
100%.
But I think I only had like a couple weeks of selling booths, and then I got passed.
So yeah, there was also a thing. It was like, I remember when I was starting to move up, it was, one person sold booze. They kept all the money. They didn't tip anybody out. And then I started doing it. And then it was like, I think it was me. I remember it was definitely me and one other comic. I can't remember who, but we were like, we have to split it with everybody. We can't just keep it.
Commies.
I was like, we have to split it. We're all broke. We're all poor. And then that's what we did. We would start to break off everybody. And then it started to get really out of hand. And then it got really crazy out of hand. And then the manager started really breaking down. And then I remember, like, I was definitely one of the people that had to, like, stand up. Because I remember there was a moment where Eric was like, we're taking it. It's gone. We're taking it. It's gone. It was like in a meeting. And I remember standing up and I was like, hey, I'm putting my job on the line saying this because I'm admitting it. But this is how we all eat. Like, this, like, we're not, one person's not keeping it. I'm like, everyone's getting it. I'm like, this person's, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this is how we pay our rent. I'll sacrifice my job by saying this. It's up to you, blah, 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 blah. And then everyone was like, yeah, blah, blah. And then you start to see people like stand up and blah, blah, yeah. But they're all going to like let it go and not say anything. But I was like, no, we have to. And then Eric was like, all right, we'll work something out. And then eventually, I think now, I can't remember who fucked it up, but someone fucked it up and then they took the whole thing away.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well.
And that sucks because that was how you paid your rent. That was how. So now, as a door guy, I think it's a lot tougher because I don't think you can survive in LA with just the hours. And now that affects you going on the road, and that affects your growth, what you could potentially be. And I think taking that away affects your farm system and your future paid regulars.
That was, again, going back to the phones, like that was what was good about having that day thing. And I always would just prefer to be there during the day because then you can still do spots.
And it's safer too. It's a little more job security.
And you get to know people. All the paid regulars call. You try to take care of them.
I have everyone's phones. Dude, anytime
Yeah.
I'd lose my phone, I'd lose my fucking mind. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, I do initials for famous people in my phone.
Oh shit. I was doing first, last, and social.
I was the first phones guy to text people for avails.
Oh.
And then Jay Mandiam started doing it in like a greasy Jay.
Oh my God.
In a networky way. And I'm like, oh God, Jay.
There's always someone who ruins it.
Yeah.
There's
I
always-
was just reaching out to the people
Yeah.
I like the most, being like, hey, what are your avails? And they'd be like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it does add a personal touch. And it's
Yeah.
also nice too, because like it's a catch-22 because when I eventually quit, I had everyone's numbers and then they would still text me for avails. And then they kind of think of you as that one thing. And then you're like, no, I do stand up. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. But sometimes for a long time, they'll just have you as that guy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's hard to like shake. And there is also something to say about when you're a phones guy and you get passed, there is still this pressure to quit.
Yeah.
Because they're like, why the fuck are you still here? And if you're a phones guy, you do get the privilege of being the first one to sign up because you're the one who has to make the list.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be a piece of shit and sign up early and fuck everybody. But I think most phone guys were pretty cool and just didn't do that.
Yeah. I would make I think I would help the Monday potluck.
I loved
sign
helping
up.
Monday. I loved that. That was fun.
But we were always pretty fair.
Yeah, you got to be as fair as possible. And then I remember you actually hosted a few of the ones I did, the open mics.
Yeah.
And I remember watching you and being absolutely terrified. Because it was just like, because I loved your hosting style, because I also emulated it when I host. It was such a fun hosting style, which is you build them up, and if they bomb, you get to fucking make fun of them.
Right.
Yeah, and it's so fun. And I remember for the longest time being a young comic watching you do the potlucks, I remember being like, I just wanted, it was no longer I want to crush or do good. It was like, I just don't want them to say anything mean about me.
Well, I found, because it was like this 4-hour show, the potluck of, the open micers and the employees, a lot of comics who had never hosted or were just bad at it, they would go up there and be super happy and blah, blah, blah. Here's your next guy. Here's your next. And like, people are bombing. There's not a lot of people there. There's a lot of amateur comedians. And if the host doesn't live in reality with the audience that person just bombed, then you lose the whole thing can be gone.
You lose your credibility.
You lose your credibility, and the whole entire show suffers. So even if someone's going to do good, they're annoyed with this host going up every 3 minutes, lying to them.
100%.
So I did my best to just be honest and present and stuff, and also, like, you get burnt out going up there lying to an audience for 4 hours.
100%.
You get burnt out not lying to them. So you might as well just, like, try to be present.
Yeah, Willie taught me something because I watched him do it, and he even showed me, and it was such a fun. You start to learn these, like, I don't want to say like magic tricks, but there's tricks, right? As a host, where you start to, like, one of my favorite things he did that taught me, which was one of my favorite things to do, is like, you build someone up, you're like, hey, this next guy's gonna be great, big fan of him, blah, 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 and then they come up, they bomb, then you come up, you're like, hey, I lied to you, and I'm so sorry, my bad, you know what I mean? I didn't know. And then it's also such a funny thing of, like, taking the dagger, and then they laugh because you're releasing, right? And but also, I think it also, when you're honest like that, it also, especially when I do it, it means more when someone succeeds, because you explain it very well. You're like, this is what it is, this is why they're here. This is a big deal, you know what I mean? This is what I've accomplished, and this is where I was, and that's why it's so cool. And then people are like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. All right, cool. I'll take a chance. I'll see what this kid is. And that's why those small wins, when they do win on that open mic, you could feel it. It means something. And you're like, oh, this is sick.
Generally, I would give people happy or like positive intros, and then if it didn't go well, I would be honest about it. Mm-hmm. But I'd say there's a couple guys I remember who consistently had a hard time, so I started just being honest in the intro, and the reason I started doing that is because I didn't want to see anybody do bad. I'm not like that. I wanted to see people do good, but the two guys, I'll just say them, it was Renee Lancaster and Carlos de Jesus, because they would often really struggle. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I want to look like an asshole. I want to say, and so I'd go up there and I would be like, hey, this guy consistently doesn't do well, or something like that. And sometimes they would do well. And I think because of the intro and I don't know, I got razzed so hard when I was a door guy there that I didn't ever feel like I was like mean.
Yeah, what was that's also the thing too. Is as a roast battle kid, I came up in just such a mean family.
It was same. Really
so it's
mean.
So it's like when you come up around comics and it's like, oh, we're allowed to bust each other's balls. It's like, I know how to break this to you. My skin's way thicker than everyone else's, right? And then then sometimes you're like, oh shit, that might be a little too much.
Yeah, I think when I was young, I was very ideological, and I just thought, and I was wrong, and maybe it was wrong for me to be that way, and I don't know, but I just thought we all understood that we were trying to be funny.
Yeah.
And I thought we all understood that if I try to do a mean joke, or if the joke is mean, regardless of what I'm trying to do, and that mean joke falls on its face, which they often would under difficult circumstances, I'm just as vulnerable as you are.
Yeah.
So you just bombed, and now I go up there and say whatever I feel about you. It's not like this is prepared shit. I'm just as vulnerable as you are. So I thought we all understood that. And then as I got older, I realized that, maybe people were intimidated by what I was doing. Or I remember one time.
What's the worst, like, reaction you've gotten? Or not reaction, but worse, like, hey, just so you know. And then you're like, oh, fuck.
One time this girl, what would often happen would be there would be people who I thought were my friends. So I felt like they understood me and liked me and stuff. and then I would be myself, and they would get, I won't say names, but yeah, I've been like threatened with violence by people I thought were my friends, and we're not friends anymore. Or they would start yelling at me in the showroom, and I'm just like, oh, I thought we're buddies. What? Don't you know that I'm just trying to be funny like you are? I'm sorry. So that would happen. Dustin, what's his name? Dustin Ibarra, is that his name?
Yeah.
He, years later, because eventually people get to know me and they're like, okay, you're not an asshole.
Yeah.
But Dustin came up to me years later.
Who
And
I think at the time had a drinking problem. So now he sobered up and he's much.
No, he didn't say anything wrong.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, like, which is why it was like how big his reaction may have been.
No, it was years after he had to deal with me.
Okay.
But he was like, he goes, hey, just so you know, because he's from Dallas.
Yeah.
And he would go, every comic in Dallas hated you. And I'm like, why? And he was like, because very often we would like do these trips to Hollywood to like go up at the famous original room, and you would host and you would shit on all of us. And I'm just like, oh, fuck. Like I was just, but again, I thought everyone understood that I was vulnerable too. And I was trying my best under difficult circumstances also. And I didn't realize, but then he told me that, and I was just like, wow, yeah. And I think maybe that could also happen with the La Jolla guys, because La Jolla Comedy Store guys would come up to LA and they're all excited to be in Hollywood. And
we worked an 8-hour shift, phones, and we're just fucking tired. We can't pay rent, and then we're like, yeah, this guy fucking sucks. And then and they're like, these guys are mean. We're like, nah, man, we forget. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess that's why people like. I've had people hit me up recently and be like, when I see you, I'm gonna fucking beat the shit out of you. Right. And I'm like, really? Why? And they're like, your attitude. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then they're like, this time you did this to me and blah blah. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm an adult now. I'll fucking apologize.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to anybody. I didn't realize.
Like I straight up was like, hey man, I'm sorry you feel this way. Looking back, I didn't think it was anything. I also, dude, it was so far from my mind. Like, if you took it that way, that's such my bad. Like, I'm so fucking sorry. You know what I mean? There's definitely people that are like, I dislike. And if they were like, hey, did you do this? I'd be like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm definitely not one of those people who's like not going to tell you I don't like you. But it's also like, I also don't want people that have been not hurt by me, but have taken slight to whatever. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. My bad, dog. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not like that at all.
I was young. I was in my 20s, and I was scraping and clawing like everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a lady. I fucking felt so bad. So it was a development spot on like, you know, it's some outside produced show. I didn't pay attention, and I guess it was like a beginner fucking show, right? So this girl goes up, she fucking eats it hard, and I walk up and I go up and I'm like, oh, comedy's hard, right? Anyways, right? And I kind of light her up. Everyone starts laughing. It's great, right? I did well, and then I fucking had a good set, and then I got off stage and just went on with my shift, right? Didn't think anything of it. 6 months later, she's on the show again, right? And then I'm like standing there just checking IDs, like working belly room, and she goes, hey, do you remember me? And I go, no. And she was like, you made fun of me on a show like 6 months ago. And I was like, oh shit, really? When? She was like, this, blah, blah. And I was like, oh dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize, like, I was just fucking around. I'm so like, I didn't mean it. Like, I promise. And she goes, that was my first time ever doing stand-up. And I was like, oh, I fucking felt like the biggest piece of shit. Because you forget that sometimes it's someone's first time doing stand-up.
I think it's like you said, maybe it's the mean family thing, but I'm just like, yeah, welcome to it. Like, that was my attitude. Like, yeah, welcome to it. I'm having a hard time right now. We're all having a hard time. But that was me as a young guy. I just, you know, you're like a rocket ship taking off when you're young, and you don't.
Yeah. I remember one of my favorite, and I think I don't know if I have apologized to. I should. Rye Dune, I'm sorry this happened to you. You're a very nice man now. It's one of my favorite stories to tell, and it's so fucking funny. So, you know, it's the open mic at the Comedy Store, right? Late night. You know, it's one of those set of the night mics before it was like called the set of the night, right? So it's all the drudges of comedy society, right? So Rye Dune at the time is a Vine celebrity. He's got an apartment. He's got a nice lady. He drives a nice car. You know what I mean?
I vaguely remember.
Yeah. So he shows up at an open mic at the belly room of the Comedy Store, right? And he goes up and he's like doing these jokes because I guess Vine is starting to shut down, or it's starting to come out that it's going to be shutting down, blah, blah, blah.
At this time, comedians looked at Vine celebrities like we were just like, oh yeah, welcome to comedy, you fucking, like, sure, let's see how this goes, Vine star.
Yeah. Bro, it was on site. So he comes to an open mic, right? And he goes up and he's trying to do material that's trying to relate to poor fucking open micers, and he's a well-off TikTok star. And so he's like talking and stuff, and then Jeff Carasalis, you remember him? He was a fucking like a Desert War some shit vet. Pretty sure he killed kids in like the military, like one of those guys. I think Generation Kill was based off of his troop. Like he's a legit fucking thank you for your service kind of guy, right?
It's so funny to be in comedy that you are around murderers.
Yeah.
Like you're like, one of those guys, a child murderer that you work with. One of those guys. And I'm just like, yeah, one of those guys.
So this man's fucking like he's seen wild shit. He has no patience. And then so Dune's going up. He's just starts to fucking eat it, right? And Jeff Carasalis, I don't know if he had a flashback to fucking Desert Storm or what. He just goes, "Get him off!" He's like, "Light him!" Like just starts talking shit. And then everyone starts talking shit, and Dune doesn't know what's going on. He's like, "Whoa!" Like you could see he's visibly like he's like, "Why is everyone yelling at him? Like what is like?" He did not understand what was happening. So I quiet down the room. I'm like, "Hey, stop! Should I like get control of the room?" And then I was like, "Guys, he's a Vine celebrity, all right? He's not used to being funnier. Longer than 30 seconds." And it just gets a big pop. Rye just kind of looks around, everyone's laughing, and then he just gets off stage.
Aww.
And he goes to the back, and he kind of stands there, and then like the show starts to go on. Everyone's like cheering that he got off stage,
No.
and then the show goes on, and then he leaves, and then like a year later, he comes back to me. It might have been a couple of years later. He goes, "Hey, you remember that one time in the belly room?" And he goes, "Yeah, dude, everyone hated me, and it took me." He's like, "I had to go to therapy."
No.
And he goes, "It took me so long to realize that." He's like, "I took it so personal, but it took me so long to realize that that's just kind of how the store was. That they just haze you, and they're just kind of like they kind of got to go through that." And I go, "Nah, man, they all hated you, dog. They fucking hated your guts that night." I was like, "Yeah, we haze people, but dog, not like that. That was fucking mean, bro." And I felt so bad, but it was real funny.
I probably told this story on a podcast, but as I got older, I got more self-aware, and I wanted to be nicer.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I wasn't hosting as much, but I still do it a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I want to make like a spiritual effort tonight to be not as mean or not as like just have some awareness a little bit more around people's feelings that are going on stage.
Yeah.
And so a girl goes on stage, does badly, and she's like at the time it was cool to be like a Silver Lake fat girl with glasses kind of look. And that was like hip. And so she goes on stage, doesn't do well. And so I'm like, okay, I still need to be me. I still need to be present in this room with what just happened. But I'm going to try to be like whatever. I go, so instead of being like she sucked or whatever, I was like, oh, it didn't seem like you guys liked her. Like kind of making it like still live in this moment, but make it more like, hey, obviously there was no laughter happening in the nicest way. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the middle of it, a guy's like, fuck you, man. Like he thinks I'm being mean to her. Like a guy starts yelling at me in the audience. And in my head, I'm like, I'm trying so hard to be nice right now. But like, I have to call out that none of you were laughing, but I'm like, now I'm tripping on myself because I'm trying to do something that I'm not used to.
And I've seen you get mean, and trust me, I've had to be also one of the guys to hold someone that's huge back from absolutely tearing you apart. And it is the funniest thing every time it happens.
Okay, so I get yelled at by this guy. And now I'm like, I'm trying to be nice. I'm just trying to whatever. So I go to the back of the room and I find the comic, and I go up to her and I go, hey, I don't know how it came out. That guy started yelling. I wasn't trying to be rude or anything. I was just trying to call out that the audience wasn't, super good or whatever. And she goes, you're actually confusing me with a different female. I've gone up to a totally different fat girl with glasses. So now I'm like mean by accident again. And it couldn't be more clear. It's like another fat girl with glasses. And I'm like, fuck. So then I'm still hosting the show. Like I said, it's like a 4-hour show. And then eventually the right fat girl with glasses comes into the room. And I go, hey, I was trying to apologize to you earlier. And then she's like, looks at me like, she didn't say it, but with her eyes, she was like, yes, I heard you mistook me for a different fat girl in glasses. And I go, I'm so sorry, I'm so retarded. And then she goes, oh, retarded. My brother has Down syndrome. And I'm just like, I'm never hosting again. I'm never making an effort to be nice. All I've done is create more damage. So that was that time I tried to be nice.
Oh my God. It's like getting in a car accident and getting into another car accident immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so fucking fun. I love moments like that. Like, that's one of the beautiful things about the Comedy Store too, was like there was just moments of pure comedy that happened. Like pure, you couldn't write how funny this was. You know what I mean? Like Mervis getting his dick sucked at the back of the the back of the door. You know what I mean? Like just running into the fucking being a door guy at 8 p.m. and opening the bathroom door and seeing Katie Seaberry fucking some random guy. Like just rough shit.
Yes.
One of my favorite moments ever was when Boone Shakalaka was around, God rest his soul. When he would sell stuff, one time he was selling a bunch of porn DVDs and he had them all fanned out on all of the patio tables.
Funny.
At like 7 fucking p.m. while people were loading into the shows. It was like a Friday, I think. And Eric Anderson walks out, you know, surveying the place, and then he just looks and sees what Boone's doing. He's like, Boone, you gotta get out of here. Like, he just freaks out. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, get all this shit out of it. It was so fucking funny. Like across 4 tables, it was just like black chicks getting railed by white guys railing black chicks, like MILFs, and then like just ridiculous porn videos. It was so funny.
Boone would always ask to suck my dick and come on his face. He thought it was good for his skin. And I'll never forget, this is the funniest thing I ever heard Boone say. I go, Boone, when are you going to stop asking to suck my dick? And he goes, when you let me.
Boone was amazing. Boone
One time I was like, what if I come in a cup? Because it seems like you just want the semen. And then he like thought about it, but wasn't like, no, not good enough. Like the cum in the cup wasn't good.
Oh my God, that's perfect. All right.
He was a homeless guy who came to the store and sold things he stole for $1.
Yeah, and then I'm not going to say who, but they ruined the economy of Boone by started giving him extra money, more than $1. And then he went from selling T-shirts for $1 to selling T-shirts for $5. And then, like, all of a sudden his prices went up, and I was like, what the fuck? And then
that could have been me. I felt bad for him, so I'd give him a 5 or a 10 here and there. And he'd be so excited.
It wasn't just you. It was also other people. And I'm like, we got to stop upping the prices. This inflation's getting this Booneflation's getting crazy. All right, so the last half is questions my wife wrote. The Question Master. No, we're not going to go up. I was just pointing at the camera. The Question Master, coined by McCusker. That's what I call her now, the Question Master. So my wife's a therapist. She writes, questions and stuff. And then they're like nothing crazy, but it's just to spur like good conversation. And we've gotten some wild. One of our guests told us a story about how his dad cut his own hand off so he could get Social Security money.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was wild.
wild.
Yeah. So let's see if you can beat that. No, I'm just kidding. It's no. All right. What lessons have you had to learn the hard way?
What lessons have I had to learn the hard way? Wow, so many. I mean, you got to be careful with your heart and who you get in relationships with. That's something that's important because I've had a lot of hurt in different relationships or caused a lot of hurt. I don't know. So many lessons have I had to learn the hard way. I fell off a bird scooter. Had to go to the hospital. That was a hard lesson. Don't go on bird scooters. I don't know. I would say mostly with your heart. I would say I don't think there's any what I've learned over time, and I think emotionally I've learned from it, which is, yeah, regardless of if you think you're in a relationship that's just a fling or whatever you're doing with your heart and your relationships with other people, it's very substantial despite what you think. I think when I was dating and single, I felt And I bet you even your therapist wife would say you are entitled to this, but I think everyone wasn't. I felt entitled to have a few months to date anybody to figure things out, which is a healthy thing. To say, oh yeah, like it would be toxic someone who falls in love on date one, or
Mm-hmm.
so. But I think what I realized now that I'm married is that even a 3-month relationship can be 20 dates too long, and I think. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense, but I would just say have as much consciousness you can around dating and friendship and who you give your heart to and
No,
your
that
time
that
to.
that makes sense. I've been in relationships where like I've been like, oh, this is just kind of like a fling. This is kind of just like a thing, and then like they've been more into me or whatever, and then also not being like, oh, not that I led this person on, but it's also just like, oh, I wasn't careful with your feelings and your heart. I know in my 20s, I talked to my wife. I've made comments where I was like, not that I was a monster, but I was like, I definitely was careless with a few people's hearts and emotions and stuff. And it definitely, as I grow older, I'm like, oh, that wasn't nice. And, I'm always cordial with a lot of my exes and stuff, and things are different now. But
Yeah.
it's also like, I definitely do like have regrets of like being like, I could have been a much more mature adult.
Yeah, and it goes both ways. Sometimes you have that mentality with dating or friendship, and then they dump you.
Mhm.
And then you go, oh, fuck, I like them way more than I fucking was acting. I was acting all casual because I was just like, hey, we're only 3 months in. Of course this is casual. And then they dump you, and you're like, oh, fuck, I really liked her.
Yeah.
Maybe I fucked up. And so something that really helped me and finding my lady and getting married is my sister gave me this advice where she was just like, make a list of what really, really matters to you. And don't waste your time if these boxes that really need to be checked aren't being checked.
Mhm.
And write the list. Be like, they have to be honest. They can't have an issue with drugs. They can't be too hoary. Whatever your list is.
That's crazy because that's not on my box.
No, because I've dated, and I don't judge whores, but I know from my experience that in dating whores, I never felt like I could trust them.
No, absolutely.
Or you're out to dinner, and every time you go out to dinner, some guy's like, hey, so-and-so. Like, you're like, oh, he fucked my girlfriend. And it was every dinner. I was a bump in with someone she fucked. And I learned that I couldn't handle it. And maybe if you can, I think that's great. But I was living with this awful feeling.
Yeah.
So I literally took my sister's advice, and I checked off a bunch of boxes and it helped me not go on date 8 or date 4 with people that I knew weren't checking my boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually makes a lot of sense, and that's I think that's very healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm what was I gonna there was definitely something I wanted to bring up. I think it's very funny. You know who gave me like the "you should marry her" speech that like very much changed my perspective on things? Eric Griffin. Eric Griffin, very much like a father, sat me down, and it was right after a roast battle because I remember being like, "Oh, me and my wife are going to Hawaii. I'm not going to propose to her," and she fully thought I was going to propose to her, but I was just like, "Yeah, I'm a host becoming a feature that wants to become a headliner," and I was like, "I don't want her to be married to a fucking feature trying to make it. Like, I don't want her to struggle, like, blah, blah, blah." And then,
we're all features trying to make it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everyone's someone's feature.
100%. And I remember thinking that, and
Not
then
everyone, but-
Eric Griffin, like, sat me down and was like, "Dog," he was like, "First off, you're not your father." And immediately I was like, "Oh, shit." And he was like, "You're making choices for her and not with her." He was like, "Was she with you before all this, before you got into comedy?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "So she's been with you as an open micer?" He was like, "What makes you think that she's like, what's the difference between her supporting you as a feature?" Like, he was like, "Dog, this is the woman loves you. This is the best thing." He was like, honestly, he was like, "This woman's the best thing that ever going to happen to you in your whole fucking life." He was like, this is the lady." He was like, what are you running away from? What are you scared of?" And then I kind of had to sit with myself and think of it, like, what am I scared of? And I was like, oh yeah, I just don't want to be my parents. I don't want to, like.
What would make you your parents? I don't understand.
They divorced. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't make it work. Like, I don't want to.
You were scared you were starting in a bad place and it was going to lead to divorce.
Of course. Or like, I just was scared I was going to disappoint someone. You know what I mean? Like, and or like, not even like that. It was also like I didn't see people do it correctly. You know what I mean? And I just didn't want to be that. I didn't, And she was just like, no. She's like, I'm fucking, we were fucking goddamn rock solid. I love her to death. We make each other better. We're both succeeding so much. And it's like, that is what you want.
Yeah.
And it's like, I look at my parents' stuff, and sometimes my mom will complain to me about my stepdad, and like, my dad has tons of girlfriends, and I look at him and I go like, oh, like, I don't know if this was so much about the other person, and maybe it was just about you guys and how you guys are and how much, you love yourself, and like, if you guys are even capable of being able to be in a relationship like that. And then that's kind of what made me grow up a little bit more. But anyways, Griffin was the one who like really sat me down and like had to give me that talk.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think after a divorce and you see people's behavior and what they do, it's very clear why who they are. And then oftentimes, a guy will go off and have 20 girlfriends, and you're like, yeah, you're that guy, and that's what you are, and marriage wasn't going to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, trust me. I see my dad getting tortured, bro. He was like, man, it was tough for him to be not tough for being to be in relationships, but dude, he was a fucking hound. Still is. That dude gets pussy like crazy. It's not that it's not healthy, but I'm also just like, dog, you gotta love someone, dog,
Sometimes also it's just you get older and you get divorced. I've seen this too, and then their expectations change once they realize, oh fuck, all relationships are work.
Yeah.
Or all women are difficult, or all men are difficult, and then you just become more resigned in your new relationship that you couldn't find that. Maybe not resigned, but you adjust your expectations in your second relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Man, we cooking, doc. All right. Use 3 adjectives to describe your family and give an explanation as to why those 3 words.
Definitely the first one that comes to mind is honest. I don't think anyone in my family has a problem being honest. I think sometimes they're polite, but they're very honest when they have to be, or if there's an elephant in the room, no one will hold back.
Oh, wow.
And I think that, like, going back to the comedy thing, I think that's why I thought everyone was on the same page with honesty, because that was just what I was raised upon. We weren't like tiptoeing around each other's feelings.
Have you seen that bite? Has there been any like moments where it's really bitten people like family wise in the ass, or is it like, have you seen moments where it's like, oh shit, this isn't the most healthiest? You know what I mean?
Sort of like. I don't want to call out anyone specific in my family, but I would say some are maybe a little too much honesty. But for the most part, I think it's measured, loving honesty that I do get.
That's good.
Yeah. But
hold on, I want to bring up one story before we continue with this.
Yeah.
So Hannah's grandfather is, we're pretty sure is autistic, and so he just says what he thinks, and it's truly some of the funniest family comedy that I've ever seen. And I wish I could recreate it. But one of my favorite moments was like a family dinner. This was a couple of years ago. Her grandfather's kidneys were starting to fail. So the conversation was about dialysis and then him getting kidney replacement, but he's also very old and then all this stuff. So we're talking about it as a family. And it's everybody in the family. The whole family's in the fucking house. They're all talking about it openly. And then they're like, yeah, well, I guess if, worst comes worst, he's just going to have to start going to dialysis daily. And then it gets kind of quiet and he goes, ugh, dialysis? Yeah, I think I'd rather just die. And then it just gets quiet. And then all you hear is the sobs of his wife. And I just remember I just start to giggle, and I had to like walk out of the room because it was just so fucking funny to me that he just didn't read the room, that like everybody in that room loves him so much, and he couldn't just keep it to the idea of like, that's a thought you could have just kept in his head. You know what I mean? He didn't have to tell everybody that he's like, yeah, no, I'm just going to die. I'm fine with that. And like, you just feel everybody like absorb it. And then it's just sadness and everyone's like starts to cry. It was just so fucking funny to me.
That is funny. Yeah, I've got like, I remember a couple years ago, I was kind of just fighting with my dad. We get along great, but at the time we were just having a moment. And I'm at his house trying to like help him with his TV or something. But he's like kind of still mad at me or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and I have 4 older siblings, and he just goes, I have 5 kids, so if we don't talk, I can kind of deal with it. You maybe worded a little bit, but it's pretty much like, I've got 5 kids, so like if I lose you socially, like don't worry, I'm all stocked. He's so funny. My dad, the other day, he was fucking complaining about like chicken that my mom made or whatever that we had in the house. And then I start laughing just because when you hear your dad complain, it's just funny. Or it's like sitcom dads. He goes, "What's so funny?" I go, "It's funny to hear you complain about schnitzel." And he goes, "I'm not complaining. I'm trying to improve the situation." Dude, he's so fucking funny.
Dads are like, I've always wanted to just have a podcast where it's just dads, like a comic, his dad, and another comic and his dad. Because like my dad's always been like the guy's guy. Every person's always met my dad's always like because he's a drinker, which is good and bad. But I remember one of my favorite stories of my dad. So my dad and his brother, they're half brothers, but they party like they're fucking full blooded, right? And they would always go to this bar that was local to where they lived, I think in La Alhambra. And they have a pool table. My dad's a big pool guy, notorious fucking pool. Nah, I wouldn't say pool shark, but he can clean up. He can fucking make some money, right? So they go to this bar, and my dad's drinking. He's beating everybody, right? He beats the best guy in the bar. The bartender, kind of being like snotty, he's just like watching my dad play, and he's just like, that's not even the best guy in the bar. My dad's just like, all right, well, fucking put up. And the guy was like, what? And he goes, yeah, we'll fucking, put up some money. Let's play. And the guy was like, no. And he goes, all right, well, shut the fuck up, Cupcake. And he says this because the guy just happens to be holding a box of cupcakes because it's somebody's birthday. And my dad hit him with the cupcake line, and the guy got so fucking mad. He like put the cupcakes down and starts talking to my aunt and my uncle who are regulars there. And it's just like, you got to get him out of here. Like, blah, blah. And they had to like smooth the whole fucking thing down because the guy got so mad and was going to like fucking get him kicked out and all that stuff. And my dad, they were like, dude, you can't, we come here all the time. Like, chill the fuck out. My dad was like, what? It was just so fucking funny. He's just like that kind of guy.
Yeah, I think I also had a lot of honesty because my grandparents are still alive. They're in their 90s.
Oh, wow.
So old people are super honest.
Oh, my God.
Dude,
yeah.
The other day, my grandma drops this fucking gem. Same thing. It was, so my family's from Boyle Heights, and Boyle Heights was Mexicans, Jews, and Japanese historically. Demos have changed a little bit, but that was the general mix. And so she was talking about when World War II happened, they took the Japanese away and sent them to camps.
Yeah.
And she was talking about
the greatest day ever, as my grandfather describes it.
So they're talking about how horrible it was and why it was wrong, but America was scared. And then my grandma goes, my friend Sally got a piano for $5. I'm just like, oh my God. So Jewish to go into like the deals, the Japanese garage sales going on at the time. Like, because I wouldn't even think that. But she was like, yeah, my friend got a piano for $5. So awful. I like Japanese people, but that's what was going on.
Great pianos.
Oh my God, that's so fucking funny. Oh, she bought someone's family heirloom for $5.
Yeah. But then I think she like sat with it a sec and she was like, I think they sold it back to them when they came back. And I was like, okay.
Oh my God, that's so fucking terrible. That is that's so fucking funny. All right.
You wanted 3 or you want to move on to the next question?
No, we'll do one more. We got one more question, and then I think we'll.
No, you said what are 3 things?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Okay, these will be the last 2 then, and then we'll be good.
Well, we don't have to go to the next one.
No. I want the last 2 because that first one was so fucking good.
And the questions were 3 things about my family.
3 adjectives and what those adjectives and like an explanation for each of those adjectives. That first one was so good.
Yeah, honesty. I think next for my family, I would go with shit. So fucking honest.
Honesty again.
Well, here's the thing. So socially, my family, they can be charming, but they can also be very apathetic to people. So I've had like a lot of the same friends since I was 9, and they'll always be like, I've known your family for 30 years. They don't know my name. So I don't want to say apathetic, but I think my family can be so honest about where they are at that someone will be like, hey, how you doing? Like, for example, my wife told me at my wedding, like her brother was like talking to my sister and my sister just walked away mid-conversation. And they're really like nice white Christians from Orange County. They're just like not used to this kind of behavior. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what she would do. So honesty and where they're at, there's no moves. There's no manipulations. And then 3, I would say, I think there's a don't give a fuckness, if that's an adjective, where everyone in my family will do exactly what they fucking want to do. And no one's and it'll come out in different ways. Like, my mom's a workaholic. She doesn't give a fuck. She'll do that. And like, she will continue being herself. Same with my dad. Same with all my siblings in very different ways. I think we're all very like, maybe I'm the least that way. They say I'm sort of the black sheep of my family. I'm the nice one by a landslide. Everyone calls me the nice one. And I think it's because I was largely raised by a very sweet lady who works for the family, Yolanda, who's like a saint of a woman. So I think I inherited more of Yolanda's behaviors. Than
Is
the
she
rest of my
Mexican
family.
or some kind of Latin?
Mexican?
Mexican?
Yeah.
Is that why you love the Dodgers so much?
I love Mexicans and I love the Dodgers, and it all comes together in that beautiful stadium.
Is that why we're friends? Is that why you're so nice to me?
Well, I'd go downtown a lot because my family business was downtown. Yeah. So I don't know. Mexicans were very like part of my like life, I feel.
Yeah.
Because I was very ingrained in like downtown LA. My family's from Boyle Heights. My grandpa always took us to weird Mexican restaurants downtown. Like it was like, obviously I'm not Mexican, but it was very much so part of
You
my
could definitely
thing.
pass for sure.
Esther always says when she met me, she thought I was Mexican.
Dude, everyone always thinks I'm either Mexican. A lot more people, we've had people on the podcast think I'm black or some kind of mixed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but definitely always Mexican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed Mexican with you. I don't know though. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
but I
interesting.
believe it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dude, that was so much fun. Anything you want to plug before we start to get out of here?
No, go to my Instagram, Benji Aflalo. Check my YouTube page. I've got a podcast called the Fat Benji Podcast. I haven't put one out in a little bit, but they're still up there. I'm building a home studio right now, so I'll get back to pumping stuff out soon. But yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right, right before we get out of here, I guess we'll just how are you liking Austin? Is like
I love it here. Every time I come, I'm thinking of moving here. And then every time I come, Hinchcliffe gives me a speech about how he gives me like the most like moving speech.
Yeah. Shit.
And
look at me.
So the last speech he gave me, he was like, I need to talk to your wife. I will convince your wife. And then I talked to my wife and she was like, all right, I'll talk to him, and this is what I need him to promise us. So
yeah, and it's funny too. My wife was the same kind of thing. She was like, listen, and she was like, the what's it called when you both meet in the middle?
A compromise.
The compromise is
that's how little you compromise.
What's that thing called where I don't get my way? That stupid thing. What's that dumb thing called that involves me not absolutely winning and considering others?
Yeah, we compromise is that. Yeah, I can get a place out here and be here 2 weeks out of the week, whatever. She'll come on the weekends, blah blah. Versus like having her move her whole goddamn life. Because that's the other thing too, is like, and she even had to sit me down and tell me, because I remember when the first kind of conversation of people moving to here happened, I was like, oh yeah, let's just get up and move. And she like immediately broke down into tears and she was like, are you gonna leave me over this? And I was like, no, like, what do you? And then it was like, oh yeah, I've had such a chaotic life and upbringing. It's nothing for me to just pick up and move.
Yes, I wasn't raised with sentiment.
Yeah.
I lived in like 11 houses by the time I went to college.
So the wife has only known 2 houses growing up in her life, right? Her mom's, the original house her parents bought, and then the house they have now. And then like, that like they don't do that. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. No wonder in your eyes, me being like, yeah, let's just move to Texas because I want to do comedy stuff. And then you being like, oh, fuck, he's going to leave me. Where it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave you 2 weeks out of the month and then I'll be back. Yeah.
See, I want to have a family soon. So it's not like manageable to be like, yeah, bring babies back and forth every other weekend. So that's the issue.
And that's also the thing, too. We've talked about kids and stuff. And I told her, I was like, if we have a kid, this whole conversation changes.
Right.
We have a kid. I'm going to be a dad and I'm going to be in LA and because I want to be a dad. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a guy that's not around. I know what that's like. And I don't want my kid to be a superstar comedian. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, if that happens, I'm around. But if not, then it's like, yeah, we'll just have fun living the cool lives that we live.
My children will be involved in no performing arts.
No, I
won't even let them watch movies. No, I'm kidding. But God forbid my kid's a comedian.
No, I want
anything like this.
My kid could be whatever they want, even if they live a regular ass life. That sounds weird to say, but as long as they're satisfied with what they do, that's fine.
Doctor or lawyer, you know, that's the like Jewish stereotype that we just push our children to be doctors and lawyers. Nobody did that to me. And I'm constantly like, why didn't you do that to me?
Yeah, they're like,
Not that I'm not happy, but like,
yeah.
you know, sometimes I go to doctor's offices and I'm like, this is the fucking life. Every doctor chooses a random day every week where they're like, yeah, we're office closed on Tuesdays. It's like, who the fucking made that rule? And then they have nurses and the administrative assistant do like 90% of the work.
Yeah.
Then they have this office with family photos, smiling in Hawaii everywhere, and fucking signed Ohtani jerseys. And like, that's their whole life. And I'm just like, this is the fucking shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I just saw this video today. Have you seen the video of the Dr. Derek guy? Oh my God, I cried my eyes out this morning. It's this lady who got a surgery, and the guy who gave her life-saving surgery was her student in like elementary school. And he writes her this letter, and it's like, you're sobbing, she's sobbing reading the letter. And then the doctor walks in as she's reading it, and she can't see because she's like lost reading the letter. I'll send it to you, or if you want to watch it. Dude, it was...
I don't know if you guys want to have a video of me crying right now, dog. I don't know how to break this to you, but dude, so in a segment that I've always wanted to do, and I think we might be able to do it on this podcast, but it'd be like the whole segment is trying to get you to cry. So it's videos like that. It like soldiers coming home, kids like blindfolded, like swinging a piñata, and then their dad shows up, and then they're like, "Oh my God!" Like shit like that, like a dog seeing its owner after a couple of years, like shit like that. Like I just want to do a segment where I show you videos like that, and you got to like cry.
This one's exceptional because it's not like a moment where like, oh, here he comes from Iraq and he's hugging his daughter. This is like 3 minutes straight of you crying.
Oh my God! There's a video I saw this
Amy
morning.
Schumer posted it. It's this, and if you Google it, I think like Google like Dr. Derek. His name was Derek. Oh my God.
There's a video that I saw this morning, and it was a video of a guy getting a Build-A-Bear, and the sound was the heartbeat of his son that had passed away, and the guy that sent him was the person that received his heart. So the guy that is now able to live because of the heart that he received from his son that passed away, he sent him a Build-A-Bear. Oh my God, I'm getting all choked up. So like you hear the guy. It plays and you just hear it, like it's loud. You hear the thump, thump, thump of his heart, and you just see this guy just start to break down. And they're recording him, and you see him look up, and he's just like, "All right, enough." Like he's like, "You guys gotta stop. You gotta stop," because it gets so real for him. Obviously, it gets so fucking real for him. But dude, I watched that and I was like, I can't. I was like, high as shit, 11 in the morning, trying not to cry. Like,
I cry so easily. I cry all the time. I can go to a wedding of someone I don't even know, and I'm bawling
dude,
my eyes out.
Ever since I got married, anything with a wife, any kind of like. Any John Wick storyline, any like that's like I'm like, like it just gets me.
Or Hall of Fame speeches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Allen Iverson's Hall of Fame speech, crying. Mariano Rivera walking off the mound for the last time, and then he hugs Andy Pettitte.
Yeah.
And you could tell he's hiding his tears in the hug. Oh my God.
Oh,
Dead.
it was a very famous athlete who literally had cancer and was dying, and then he goes and gives his last speech, and they're like starting to play him off, and the like time's running down, and he's just like, I don't give a fuck. He's like that. I have less time than this. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's acknowledging. He's like, this is it for me. Like, what? And it's like everyone's like, clap, like, cause it's like, oh shit, like it's crazy. I mean, the thing that really gets me too, especially in comedy stuff, is like that Norm video. It's like the last time he's doing late night, and he tells like, and I think it's Jimmy Kimmel. I can't remember which late night guy, but it's about to be like he's just saying it's his last time doing it, and it was like. Oh, or no, it was the show was ending, and he's like, it's my last time doing it. And it wasn't, people thought it was like the last time because the show's ending. It was like, no, this is the last time because Norm knew he was going to pass away.
I think Bill Hicks has a similar story where I think when he would, like when he started going to the clubs for the last, because he was hiding his cancer too.
Yeah.
Similar thing.
Yeah.
And they think you're joking.
Yeah, of course.
I'll never see you again.
Yeah.
My dad will do shit like that. For the like, sometimes I'll be like, bye, Dad. He's like, you might not ever see me again. I go, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know. Like he'll just go straight to, could die any day. I'm like, okay, bye, Dad. See you later. Constantly, the most morbid.
Oh my God, that's so much fun. Dude, thank you so much for coming and doing this. Did you have fun? Did you enjoy it?
So fun. I love you, bud.
Hell yeah, dude.
Always.
I love you the best. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Kali Extracts. Thank you, Puffco. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, my beautiful wife who's going to be here this weekend. This has been a great one. Thank you so much.